To La Verrerie, and already Riccardo Patrese has slotted his Brabham BMW into second position ahead of Eddie Cheever, behind Alain Prost. So it's Cheever third, Renault's first and third, and Nelson Piquet is in fourth position, and René Arnoux in the Ferrari is in fifth place. And this should be the story of the turbocharged cars, because this Paul Ricard circuit, with its over 1 mile long Mistral Straight, which they're approaching now, gives them, with their power advantage, a tremendous benefit. And it's terribly important to Renault and to France that Renault again do well in the French Grand Prix. They won in 1979, in 1981 and 82, and it's Prost leading, then Patrese, then Cheever, then Piquet, then René Arnoux, and as they come under the bridge, Patrick Tambay is in sixth position, and Ferrari have had appalling engine troubles in practice. They have blown, believe it or not, no less than 8 engines.
And just in case you're wondering where Watson is in the McLaren, he had to pit in the first lap. His nose cone was damaged. And now live for the 1983 French Grand Prix, and we pick it up on lap number 9.
Enough now. Rosberg's got enough twisty part of the track to get the very nimble Williams car away from Arnoux, so that is immediate problems dealt with, and he now sets off in potential pursuit of Patrick Tambay.
Lap 9 in the 54-lap French Grand Prix, and Alain Prost in the Renault leads by 4.8 seconds his teammate Eddie Cheever in the second Renault. In third place is Nelson Piquet in the first of the Brabham BMWs. In fourth place is Riccardo Patrese, Brabham BMW. Sixth is Patrick Tom, fifth is Patrick Tambay, and in a magnificent sixth position and the leading non-turbo, Keke Rosberg in the Williams. I wonder which of these cars are coming in for refuel. We believe that the Renaults, both of which will be making their first ever refueling lap, stops will be coming in on laps 25 and 27, which is still a long way to go. The weather conditions now are ideal for turbos like that of the Ferrari of René Arnoux, at whom we are looking now, and who is in 7th position, because it is cool. They've got a lot of wing on to enable them to use their power to keep the wheels down. You saw the Ferrari slide a bit now. There is Keke Rosberg in 6th position. Rosberg, who finished second in Brazil, only to have his points disallowed for a technical infringement of the rules. And we've had confirmation that Nigel Mansell has abandoned, has retired from the race because of pain from his toe injury. Tragic luck for him. Prost goes through, completing his 9th lap in this 54-lap lead with a very substantial advantage over Eddie Cheever and the rest of the field. It is just a question of keeping the Renault going, and it is amazing the way French Grand Prix after French Grand Prix, the Renaults succeed in doing well where they have had a failure after failure in other Grand Prix, because Jean-Pierre Jabouille won the first ever Grand Prix for Renault in 1979. Then, after Alan Jones had brought the Williams home in first place in 1980, the man that you're looking at, Alain Prost, won the 1981 French Grand Prix at Dijon, and then last year René Arnoux won in a Renault, and there are the two Renaults leading on lap 10, rather less than 1/5 of the way through the 1983 French Grand Prix. And Prost, who is a diminutive little driver in his 45th Grand Prix with 5 wins behind him, is truly dominating. Michelin race tyres, on which he is competing now, have never been in doubt. They've had trouble with their qualifiers earlier this year at Brazil and Long Beach, but they won at Brazil with Nelson Piquet, did Michelin. They won at Long Beach with John Watson, and they're well on their way to another victory now.
Well, Niki Lauda has finally woken up. He was sitting at the back of a group running the slowest 14th place. He's now passed Derek Warren, Michele Alboreto, moved up to 12th place, and although he's languishing in 12th, the world championship leader is beginning to make up ground, and he is very much in contention for. He's got a lot of turbos in front of him, difficult to get past, but some of them will be pit stopping, and so I think it's reasonable to say that Lauda, although he's not looking like winning the race, he's got the two Williamses in front of him, normally aspirated cars, but he's going a bit better now, and he seems to be getting into his stride.
And welcome to the French Grand Prix of 1983 to Channel 9 Australia, wide world of sport viewers. And the news is that we are on lap 11 of this 54-lap Grand Prix, the third of 1983. And in the lead is Alain Prost, the Frenchman, in the brand new turbocharged RE40 Renault. In second place is his teammate, Eddie Cheever, higher than he has ever been in a Grand Prix before. In third position is Nelson Piquet, leading his teammates, Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham BMW. In fifth place is Patrick Tambay. In sixth position is Keke Rosberg, and out of the race already has gone Nigel Mansell in the John Player Special Renault with a broken toe. And now Keke Rosberg and Patrick Tambay are both in good positions. Rosberg is in sixth position, and Patrick Tambay coming up through the field. There is Manfred Winkelhock, the German, who is in 8th place. Behind him, Andrea De Cesaris in the Alfa Romeo, 9th. Then in 10th position is Patrick Tambay, is Jacques Lafitte. And in 6th position is Elio De Angelis, number 11 in the John Player Special Renault, who powers past Patrick Tambay because De Angelis has got a turbocharged Renault engine compared with the Cosworth of Tambay.
Yes, Jacques Lafitte fighting away there behind De Angelis. De Angelis outpowered him down the straight, and it's the usual problem. It's being demonstrated very well here, this enormous power advantage turbo-powered cars have, and of course Lafitte held up to the twisty bit. He needs to get some daylight between him, and Lauda has closed right up on that little group in 12th place. So a big battle going on there, basically for 8th place and below, with turbocharged. There's Lafitte having a look inside, but it won't help him there because the turbocharged car would only repass him on the straight. But Lauda's caught the group right up. De Angelis probably a little bit of tire trouble, and definitely holding up the two normally aspirated cars behind him. But you see how he powers away now, and of course they're powerless to do anything. But Lafitte through the fast step, you'll see Lafitte close right up, and he'll outbrake De Angelis if he can, and there he goes, and he's got enough corners now between there and the main straight to put a bit of daylight between him if he can, and he needs to do that, just as we saw his teammate Keke Rosberg do earlier. That's a corner that'll help the nimble Williams. Here we see an active replay again, straightforward outbraking manoeuvre. He got a slingshot through the fast S's and was perfectly placed, and really De Angelis was powerless to do anything about that against the lighter, more nimble car. And here they are. You see there that Jacques Lafitte has apparently enough daylight, although the Lotus is closing fast. Is it closing fast enough to catch him before the end of the straight?
Well, we'll see. There is De Angelis taking Lafitte again. But sad news for our Channel 9 viewers in Australia is that ex-world champion Alan Jones is not taking part in the French Grand Prix here at the Paul Ricard circuit today. Alan is here and his car is here, but unfortunately financial sponsorship problems have prevented the two from getting together, so the world champion ex-world champion who drove in Brazil is not driving in France. And on lap 13, Alain Prost is leading from Eddie Cheever, the two BMWs, and Rosberg is sixth.
Bogging him down in the middle order of the field when he could be running faster and would like to be up, mixing it with the others. But up at the front of the race, the Renaults are not really getting away very fast. It could all be on the pit stop. Piquet is dropping back very, very slightly on Prost, but he's only 11 seconds behind him, and a good pit stop by Piquet and a bad one by Prost could swing all that round and more very, very quickly. In the meantime, Keke Rosberg is over 40 seconds behind the leaders now, and he's not, unless the Renaults make a mess of their pit stop, he's not going to be able to make that up, and he's still dropping back. So he's ready to sweep up any mistakes, but he's not really in contention unless they have a bad stop.
And Niki Lauda is now right up with Elio De Angelis in the John Player Special Renault, and De Angelis, number 11, is in 11th position, and there's De Cesaris with Tambay and Winkelhock as they go down the straight, followed by De Angelis, followed by Lauda, and there is in the green Benetton Tyrrell Michele Alboreto, who is in 13th position. Lap 15 then, and as we watch this battle with Niki Lauda, and here is De Cesaris taking the yellow and black ATS of Manfred Winkelhock. And now we rejoin the race. We are on lap 15. A wonderful battle between De Angelis and Lauda now trying to take him. And it is Prost leading, Cheever second, Piquet in third position, Patrese fourth, Tambay fifth. So it's turbocharged cars in the first five. And in sixth position it's still Keke Rosberg.
Yes, De Angelis is really hurting Lauda's progress, and hurting it to the extent that Alboreto has now caught Lauda and is actually close enough behind him to possibly to worry Lauda and have a go at him. So Lauda must be feeling a little bit frustrated because he was up with the feet before this, and De Angelis, who's in a bit of tyre trouble, is not getting the grip with his Lotus that he wants and would like, and but of course powering away down the straight. So look at that huge gap he's opened on the straight. Lauda was right behind him coming onto that mile-long straight, and he's now, what, 30 yards back or so, but he'll catch it all against twisty section. As Winkelhock trying to lap a slower car. Now Winkelhock made a bit of a mistake coming onto the pit straight last lap, dropped 2 places, but he's still got that powerful BMW turbocharged engine in his car, and he will be no fun for Lauda and Alboreto to find a way around either.
René Arnoux is 7th. You just saw De Angelis. There's Derek Warwick, who has been into the pits and changed 4 tyres. That's a blue and red Coleman. And meantime, nose to tail come the 4 cars behind him. Winkelhock, De Angelis, Lauda and Alboreto. And Winkelhock, number 9, is in 11th position. So that's the battle.
Well, Lauda was a little bit closer that time going into the S, but he's still not quite close enough. The feet seem to be able to get through that S a lot quicker and Lauda will get the spin stop, but especially now, Lauda's going, he should have tried the inside if he can. He seems having difficulty getting a look down there, and once again it's going to be a long straight for the Renault to power away. Lauda's snapping all over his heels in the corners, but then he just has to sit and watch, powerless to do anything. Long straight. Now he's got Winkelhock in front, weaving about a little bit, and there's the fastest lap being flashed up, Alain Prost already, but it's not spectacularly fast, still approximately 3 seconds outside the existing lap record, and something like more than 6-7 seconds slower than Alain Prost qualified, with boost wound up and sticky tyres on. And
that is Derek Warwick's car. He was with that battle that we were looking at, and he suddenly shot off the circuit. He's obviously out of the race, having been into the pits to change his tyres. So that means Derek Warwick is out, Nigel Mansell is out, John Watson is out on lap 17. It's not a good race for Britain, but it's a very good race for France at the present moment, as we look at Elio De Angelis and Niki Lauda in the John Player Special Renault and the Marlboro McLaren, and they are battling for 12th position, with Michele Alboreto there in 13th, with in 11th place ahead of them Manfred Winkelhock. There he is, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th. They are on lap 17, and on lap 17 it is still Alain Prost leading, with now Eddie Cheever 9 seconds behind him. Nelson Piquet is 11 seconds behind Cheever, then Patrese 2 seconds behind Piquet in 4th position. In 5th place Patrick Tambay, in 6th position Keke Rosberg, 7th Arnoux, 8th De Angelis, then Winkelhock, and here is Niki Lauda again trying to get past Elio De Angelis, with Michele Alboreto in the green Tyrrell holding the Austrian in the red and white Marlboro McLaren, lap 18. And very soon we're going to see the thrill and excitement of these pit stops.
Yes, and Nelson Piquet has now got right up behind Eddie Cheever, and he's definitely holding Alan Prost's lead up front. So the race now seems to have developed very much into a two-team, four-car battle between the two Renaults and the two Brabham BMWs, because they really have gone quite a long way away from Patrick Tambay, who's now some 13 seconds behind Riccardo Patrese in fourth place. So the Ferraris are still there in place if they can make up anything on the pit stop, but the rest really seem to be too far behind that. Rosberg is now well back and out of range, even bearing in mind that these leading cars have got to stop. So maybe somebody will make the mess, but they can't all mess it up.
Elio De Angelis 12th, Niki Lauda 11th, Niki Lauda 12th, and there is Michele Alboreto. They start another lap. They're still chasing the yellow and black turbocharged ATS of Manfred Winkelhock.
Lauda's 5 yards closer than before. Close enough now. Can he get through this quickly and go down the inside on De Angelis? Come on, Nicky, get down. And he's done it. Oh, not quite. Oh, I thought he'd got his nose alongside, but really going to have to get it. But has he got... I don't think he's got enough with the two corners remaining before the long straight to put enough air between him and the all-powerful Renault Lotus. So, unfortunately, he's done it at the wrong moment, and I have a nasty feeling he's going to be gobbled up on the straight. Let's watch this now and see if that Lotus of De Angelis can do it. Lauda's got enough. Here we just see him doing it again. Very straightforward. He was right up behind him, and just a little squirt on the throttle down the inside and nipped inside. But I want to go back to the battle on the straight just to see how and there it is. We missed it, but it was a sheer case of brute power and force, and poor old Lauda must be feeling mighty frustrated. But he's just got to get into that corner after the first fast test is after the pit, and not the one where he did it.
Now, he is only 9 seconds now ahead of Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW, who's gone up into second position. Behind Nelson Piquet in third position is the second of the two Renaults, Cheever, and then Rosberg.
Well, there is Niki Lauda. He's finally disposed of Elio De Angelis. I think he's got enough space now, and Alboreto, having a very optimistic look down the inside of De Angelis, couldn't quite make it, but Lauda outbraked him into the hairpin before the pits, kept enough air on the straight, and Lauda now definitely has enough space and is off and running and up into 11th place with a little bit of space now to...
Well, let's gather breath now. On the 21st lap, in the lead is Alain Prost in the Renault. In second place is Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW. Third is Eddie Cheever in the Renault. Now in fourth position is Patrick Tambay, with apparently Riccardo Patrese out of the race. In fifth position then is Keke Rosberg, who has climbed up another place. And in sixth position on the leaderboard in the Ferrari is René Arnoux. In seventh position is Jacques Lafitte. So the Williams Ford Cosworth cars are doing extremely well in fifth and seventh positions. In eighth position it is De Cesaris in the Alfa Romeo. In ninth position it's Winkelhock. And then that tremendous battle between Niki Lauda and Elio De Angelis settled now in favour of Niki Lauda. Lap 21, 54-lap race, and the fuel stop's coming up soon as De Angelis goes through. He is in front of Mauro Baldi now, with Michele Alboreto trying to take the Italian in the red and white Euro Racing Alfa Romeo with its turbocharged engine. And on lap 21 as De Angelis, with its Pirelli-tired car, which we expected to be in trouble before now, and into the pits goes De Cesaris. De Cesaris in the Alfa Romeo pits, and off goes De Angelis. So De Cesaris pits, De Angelis trouble, and the race is really changing.
Yes, here we are, we're going to see it again. You watch De Angelis, he dropped his right front wheel there, just didn't get the grip on the brake, and just as he wanted to turn it, they call it a puff of smoke as he locks the brake. And, well, it's been hard work for De Angelis so far, a little mistake, he gets going again, but he's been really struggling with probably not as much grip as the people around him, plenty of power, but it gets very hard work like that, and when you've got to go on and on without making a mistake, one sympathises.
Now, look at this lot. The Alfa Romeo of Baldi, Danny Sullivan, and behind him one of the Ligiers. And while you look at that, I will tell you that the Brabham and the Williams team mechanics are out in the pit lane. I can see them, you can't. We're getting up towards half distance now in this 54-lap race, and it's very likely that before long we'll see the Brabham BMW of Nelson Piquet, or one of the two Renaults, or even one of the Williams cars peel off and come into the pits for stops which could well transform the race. And on lap 22, it is still in the lead, Alain Prost, and he's 9.7 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet. There are Mauro Baldi and Danny Sullivan, but in third position now, and very close to Nelson Piquet, is Eddie Cheever. We haven't seen them for a while. In fourth position, it is Patrick Tambay. In fifth position, it is Keke Rosberg. In sixth position, it is René Arnoux. Seventh is Jacques Lafitte, and in eighth position, it's Manfred Winkelhock. Ninth is Niki Lauda, and in 10th place it is Michele Alboreto. What about these pit stops then? Any moment or any lap now, I suspect, and you look at Alain Prost coming up to lap Marc Surer in the Arrows, who is in 13th position.
Yes, unfortunately, Nelson Piquet's initial progress in catching Alain Prost seems to have stopped. He's dropped back that little bit, but it's difficult. He's back to 11 seconds now, the gap. Difficult to judge exactly what their form is, because they're in amongst the back markers now. They get a bit held up to the twisty section or what have you. And of course, this creates a slightly false view of the situation.
Well, there's still 20 cars left in the race. Out of it, as we know, have gone John Watson. We know that Mauro Baldi had trouble. We know that Nigel Mansell has retired. Derek Warwick has retired. Patrese has been into the pits and is still there. Cecotto has had trouble, and so has De Cesaris, and also De Angelis. And as I talk to you, Danny Sullivan is into the pits, but there is the race leader on lap 23 out of 54, Alain Prost, who won the French Grand Prix at Dijon the year before last, finished second to his then teammate René Arnoux here at Paul Ricard in 1982, and that's the new RE40 Renault. And he's up with Roberto Guerrero, number 33, and Guerrero is in 12th position. So Prost has lapped the 12th place man. He's going through, and the gap between Nelson Piquet, who is second, and Eddie Cheever, who is third, is 2.9 seconds. That's the man, though. There is Alain Prost in the very distinctive Renault with the red nose cone.
Well, it's interesting now because Piquet and Prost, the gap's bouncing around a bit, which is obviously due to the traffic, but they seem to me to be pretty evenly matched, which augurs very well for the second half of the race. We're going to see they've both got to come into the pits. It'll be a very important battle for their respective pit crews to turn them round fast enough. It's very easy to make up 5 seconds or lose 5 seconds at a pit stop, and that could be all the difference for Nelson Piquet. He'll obviously be wanting a very good one indeed, because if he can pick up a few seconds there, he's going to be close enough on the track to get a straight fight with Prost to the flag afterwards.
And welcome back to Nine's Wide World of Sports and the 1983 French Grand Prix. The placings on lap number 25, heading the field, Alain Prost. Nelson Piquet, followed by Eddie Cheever, Patrick Tambay, Keke Rosberg, and in 6th position, Jacques Lafitte. For those Alfa Romeo followers, the 8th fastest qualifier, Mauro Baldi, suffered a punctured tyre in lap number 1 which may sort of show you why he's back there in the field. Now let's go back live to France, and your commentators, Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Just going in for a few laps. Here is Cheever. They're going to start. There they are, starting the clock now. Good pit stop by the Ferrari team. They're very experienced. They've done a lot of practice. They got the fuel in very quickly indeed in about 10 seconds. Took a little bit longer over the tyres. And fuel finished. Fronts on. And that's not quite as quick, but it's still not bad. Anything under 20 seconds is not bad. The Renault team getting Cheever away and on the move. Prost's going to come in about 4 or 5 laps' time.
And where is Patrick Tambay is the next question, in 4th place, as Alain Prost is on his 26th lap. Now we're expecting Alain Prost, the race leader, to come in 2 laps after Eddie Cheever. So Cheever is now on his 26th lap, which Alain Prost is not so far off completing, and still in 2nd position it's Nelson Piquet.
As a safety measure, the teams who were making pit stops all agreed amongst themselves that they'd make them on different laps so as not to have too much of a kerfuffle in the pits at once, and I think Brabhams and Renault agreed to come in at separate times. And I can't at the moment remember who we're expecting first, but we're expecting Alain Prost quite soon, and that of course is going to change the whole complexion of the race, and we'll be expecting Piquet pretty soon as well. And they are now about 9 seconds apart. Piquet has carved back that little difference.
10.4 seconds between this man, the race leader Alain Prost, on lap 27, and the 2nd place man Nelson Piquet. In 3rd position it is still Eddie Cheever, but obviously of course with Patrick Tambay much closer to him in the Ferrari in 4th place. 5th and 6th, the 2 Williams of Keke Rosberg, and up into 3rd position has come Patrick Tambay, thanks to that pit stop by Eddie Cheever. But Cheever is close enough to Tambay to be able to regain the 3rd position if Tambay has to come in and refuel, which seems very likely in the light of the fact that his teammate René Arnoux has already done so. And Alain Prost there has passed and lapped Michele Alboreto, number 3, who is in 9th position. So Prost has lapped everybody up to 9th. And on lap 27, the order is Prost, here he is leading, Piquet 2nd, Cheever has lost his 3rd place to Tambay. In 4th position, it is therefore Cheever. In 5th position, Rosberg. In 6th position is Jacques Lafitte. In 7th position, just off the leaderboard, Manfred Winkelhock. In 8th position, it's Niki Lauda. In 9th position, it's Michele Alboreto. And in 10th place, René Arnoux. And are we going to get the leader coming in for a pit stop now? And the answer is no, he has gone through. So Alain Prost is hanging on. His car is fully equipped for refueling. Look behind his head and you will see, well, he's going too quick. He's going into La Verrerie at about 155 miles an hour, this right and left, and now down to the chicane, to the l'École, into the long right-hander at Saint-Baume, then flat out in 4th gear at about 125 miles an hour after he has rounded this corner, and into the long Mistral straight, 1.1 miles long, which he enters now, and this straight is over, as I said, a mile long, and they hold on flat out for over 24 seconds. And watch Prost as he comes up behind Mauro Baldi in the V6 Alfa Romeo, and in front of Baldi is Niki Lauda. So Baldi's coming up through the field well. And now, Alain Prost, are we going to see a Renault pit change? Into the pits goes Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg is coming in to refuel. The fastest time we've had so far is René Arnoux, and there is Rosberg. And the wheels stop now. In goes the hose, up goes the jack, off come the rear wheels. The tyres and wheels are passed back. The Williams team have been practicing this superbly. And Keke Rosberg, the reigning world champion, has got the fuel pumping in behind him, off, out of the jacks. And it's slower, he's slower. It was 17.6 for Cheever. The seconds are ticking away, something is wrong. And the Williams pit stop is not going nearly as well. And there, Keke Rosberg has lost a considerable amount of time with over 26 seconds.
Yes, I couldn't see what was wrong. It appeared to be something at the front of the car because they got the fuel in and the rear wheels done all right. But that seems again that Frank Williams has let himself down. His driver, there's Rosberg battling in there. He's on cold tyres, don't forget. With come out right beside Prost, but a lap down, and on cold tyres he won't be much of a match for him for a lap or two. But really a shame then, Rosberg really having a go, and something went wrong with the Williams team. That's 2 out of 2 pit stops that they've made a mess of, and that really won't do. They've got to get their act together on that if they're going to win races.
And as you see, Alain Prost coming down the straight. There he is with the red flash on the nose cone. He has still got to come in and make his pit stop. This is lap 29. He's now caught and passed Niki Lauda, who is in 8th position. So Prost is fairly surging his way through the field, and it's more than likely that the man who won the French Grand Prix in 1981, Alain Prost here, who incidentally, as number 15, has yet to score a point in the 1983 World Championship, could well be coming into the pits on this lap. And the fastest time so far we've had is the Ferrari pit stop of 15.7 seconds for René Arnoux. And now Prost is into the last right-hander, and it's going to be now that we see whether the Renault man goes into the pits. He's slowing down. Now he accelerates away, and he's into the pits. Now, this is going to be the critical pit stop for the race leader, Alain Prost. And as you see, the seconds tick away. The Renault mechanics are superbly drilled. They have been practicing at Viry-Châtillon, the Renault base near Paris. They have been practicing here at the Paul Ricard circuit, and this is a slower stop than that of René Arnoux. It's now slower than that of his teammate Cheever. It's very slow indeed compared with them, but away he goes in 24.2 seconds.
And this can actually put Nelson Piquet in the lead, and there goes Patrick Tambay also going into the pits to make his pit stop. Tambay, here we see Tambay pulling up, very slow stop, had trouble with the right rear wheel on Prost's car, and if Nelson Piquet can get a smooth 15-second stop or thereabouts, he will rejoin the race pretty well level pegging with Alain Prost, and we can have a real run to the finish. So the pit stop seemed to have concertinaed the team up, and a very, very fast stop by Tambay, but he did before, so it's probably just an adjustment, one of the wheel nuts possibly not tight.
Rosberg, who has pit stopped.
So we just saw Nelson Piquet there. We expect him to come in the next 2 or 3 laps, possibly this one. We don't know exactly when. Well, no, Piquet's gone past the pits. There he is. I would rather suspect he's coming in next lap. He's trying to get round one of the Tyrrells there. He doesn't want to lose any time. He's got about 27 seconds at the moment on Alain Prost. And that is about, with a good fast refuel and tyres stop, lasting some 13-14 seconds. That's a very good one. That is about what he'd lose on the road when you add on his decelerating and accelerating time out of the pits. So 27 seconds, if they have a good one for Bradford, will mean they're neck and neck. So he could be in for plenty of excitement. Looks like we're staying on Piquet now, following him round, race leader, but he has the pit stop to make. The others have done theirs, some better than others.
We must be honest, however, and say whilst we expect Nelson Piquet that we're looking at the new race leader to come into the pits, it's by no means certain that the Brabham team, led by designer Gordon Murray, are not sandbagging and fooling everybody. Nelson Piquet's on those Michelin tyres which we know can last the race distance, and it could just be that there's a big fluff going on, and the Piquet is going to drive through the whole race. It's very, very unlikely, but it's not altogether inconceivable. Meantime, there is the race leader, the man who won at Brazil, who failed to finish at Long Beach, who is second equal in the World Championship with John Watson, who has, of course, retired from this race. The World Championship led by Niki Lauda, who at the moment is in 8th position. And there is Piquet going through and into the pit. So now this is the race leader. The fastest time we've got so far is 12 seconds just over for Patrick Tambay, and it's stop and start. And the Brabham team, these are the people that initiated pit stops last year. Nelson Piquet sitting impassively in the car. Already the left front has been changed. It's slow compared with Tambay. It's fast compared with the others. Away goes Nelson, 16.1 seconds.
Well, I think that's going to take him out onto the track just behind Alain Prost. There's Alain. I think that's Prost just gone through, possibly. No, Prost going. No, Cheever just gone by.
That's Niki Lauda's car. Niki Lauda's car stuck by the road there. So out goes the World Championship leader, Niki Lauda, and Piquet there.
Yes, Piquet is just behind Prost. We saw Prost go through before him. At a guess, I'd say 8-10 seconds. Cold tires. Piquet needed new tires. Prost was catching him fast on the road after he'd made his pit stop, and I would think that Piquet's tires were getting a little bit tired. So now we've got to see how they settle. Piquet will take at least probably one full lap to warm his tires up before he's up to maximum racing speed. And meanwhile, Alain Prost is, of course, increasing his lead. When they come past us, we'll get the watch on it, but I would think it'll be 10 seconds or more.
There is Prost. We will, of course, put the stopwatch on the Renault of the talented Frenchman Alain Prost, who is on his 33rd lap, and see what the gap is between himself and Nelson Piquet. Prost has passed Marc Surer in the arrows there, and the question is Nelson Piquet going to be able to do anything about his position in relation to that of the Renault of Prost, who is coming through to complete his 33rd lap. Here he is, out of the right-hander at Pont at the pits, over the line to complete the lap and start a new one. That is 33 laps completed then for Alain Prost, who streaks away towards La Verrerie as into the sight of us comes Nelson Piquet, and it is just about 10 seconds between Alain Prost, the race leader on lap 34 in this 54-lap French Grand Prix, and Nelson Piquet, who should be the next car that you see. There he is, second place, the brilliant Brazilian world champion of 1981.
And welcome back to the 1983 French Grand Prix on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Live from Paul Ricard, and now to Murray Walker and James Hunt as they continue their commentary.
It will remain to be seen how clever a gamble it is, because he does seem to have something that he didn't have before his pit stop, just by comparison of his performance against his two pursuers, with whom he was so easily matched earlier on in the race. It'll take us a couple of laps to get a pattern on that, and then we're going to have to see if they put a soft compound on, whether he'll last us. There is Piquet, driving very smoothly as we expect, with a big flash of flame through his turbocharger then. They're very spectacular like that, these silencer arrangements they put on the engines.
And I'm watching Piquet as you are, and I'll be able to tell you now what the gap is, because Prost has gone through and completed his 35th lap, and James is right. Piquet is dropping back. The gap is 14 seconds.
Yes, and Prost has just posted a new fastest lap, so Alain Prost has definitely done something in the pits, or either that or got his finger out in a big way, because he's going considerably quicker. He's averaging fast over 126 miles an hour around this lovely Ricard circuit, and Piquet at the moment doesn't seem to have an answer to that.
And while we look at Piquet, Keke Rosberg in 6th position is gaining fast on his teammate Patrick Tambay, who is in 5th place and on lap 36. As you look at the turbocharged Brabham BMW of 2nd place man Nelson Piquet. It is Alain Prost leading by about 14 seconds now. Piquet that you look at second. In third position, Cheever. In fourth position is Patrick Tambay. Fifth and sixth and battling hard, the two Williams of Jacques Laffite, fifth, and Keke Rosberg, sixth. In seventh position now, it's Michele Alboreto. Down to eighth has gone René Arnoux, whose season it is not, because he's only in fifth position with 4 points in the World Championship. Then behind Arnoux is Jean-Pierre Jarier, and everybody up to Jean-Pierre Jarier have been lapped, and Jean-Pierre Jarier is ninth. There is Piquet, lap 36, and there is Prost. Now, I've got the stopwatch running, and Piquet's tyres, of course, are warming up, and it looks visually to me as though Piquet is gaining a bit. Prost, fastest so far, 1:42. That's 2 seconds outside the lap record, which was done by a skirting car. But Piquet is indeed dropping back. 16 seconds is the gap as Alain Prost comes up to René Arnoux, who is in 8th position. Right, so Prost has lapped the 9th place man. He's gaining on the Ferrari of René Arnoux, and this is going to be very interesting because it was last year that René Arnoux and Prost had a real needle match, because Prost had instructions to win and René Arnoux had instructions to finish second, and René Arnoux held on to the lead he had, and he won the race, much to the disgust of Prost and the Renault team. And now they're in rival cars, and Prost wins. Arnoux, right beside him, is gaining on Michele Alboreto, and behind them is Raoul Boesel in the Ligier, and Prost is through. He has taken the Ferrari on his 37th lap out of 34. So the leader has lapped the 8th place man. In 2nd place it is still Piquet. 3rd it is still Cheever. 4th it is still Tambay. 5th it is still Laffite. 6th it is still Rosberg. 7th it is still Alboreto. And as you see, the race leader, Alain Prost, is now right up to the green Benetton Tyrrell of Michele Alboreto, lapping the fastest. That's the fastest car on the circuit, on the right, Alain Prost. And Keke Rosberg has moved up into 5th position ahead of his teammate Jacques Laffite. And now Prost is on his way, about to pass Michele Alboreto, and he does it going into La Verrerie and out of it. Left, right, brake, down through the gears, left again. Alain Prost now coming up to the Mistral, and it looks as though Alain Prost, who led the race for lap after lap, well into the race until he was caught at his pit stop by that man, Nelson Piquet, who is now second, is indeed going to have his 6th Grand Prix win, because Nelson Piquet locked up his right front wheel as he went into the right-hander there. But the Renault seem, and I emphasize the word seem, to be much more reliable this year, although Eddie Cheever has yet to finish a Grand Prix. He didn't finish at Brazil, he didn't finish at Long Beach. Prost finished in Brazil in 7th position. He finished at 11th place at Long Beach, and he's now on the lead with the glory of France and the glory of Renault, and both matter a great deal to most of the people here at the Paul Ricard circuit, resting on his shoulders. And of course, he's lucky in one way, is Alain Prost, because it is so, I was going to say cool, it's not cool here at Paul Ricard, compared with last year when the race was run 3 months later at the end of July. It is downright cold. We are all sitting here in the open commentary box in our anoraks, and we're very glad we've got them. And now Patrick Tambay, as Prost goes through, Patrick Tambay is gaining, you saw it in the background, on Michele Alboreto, and the gap between race leader Alain Prost and Nelson Piquet is down to about 11 seconds. The gap between Piquet and Cheever is about 5 seconds, so it seems to me that Piquet is speeding up.
No, he's 17 seconds down, I just counted, Murray, and he's losing a little bit, but to Alain Prost, but I still haven't got any really logical explanation for Prost's very sudden turn of speed when he came out of the pits after at stopping for tyres and fuel, because he proceeded to knock something like a second off his previous, or the previous fastest lap, which I think was set up by Piquet, and that leads down the line as he streaked away from the field. What he may have done is stuck on a set of softer tyres, done a few quick laps to demoralise Piquet, establish his superiority, and now having done that, he may well have slowed it right up to keep his tyres cool.
And it's Farby in the Osella there. Corrado Farby, brother of Teo. There is Eddie Cheever in third position, 4 seconds as Corrado Farby gets out of the Osella. Cheever 4 seconds behind the second place man Nelson Piquet, who is 16 seconds behind the race leader, who is Alain Prost, who is on his 39th lap, which he is just coming up to complete. He completes that lap now and goes into his 40th lap, 14 laps to go then in this 54-lap race, but it's still far from clear-cut. Alain Prost leading, Nelson Piquet is second, Eddie Cheever third, Patrick Tambay is fourth, Keke Rosberg is fifth, and Nelson Piquet is now 18.3 seconds behind. He's dropping back, and the gap between Piquet and Cheever is 6.7 seconds. So the first three are spreading out. The first three on lap 40 being Alain Prost in the lead. In second position, Piquet in third position. Cheever in fourth place. It's still Tambay in the Ferrari. In fifth position, it is still Rosberg. In sixth position, it's still Jacques Laffite, who is the last man not to have been lapped. In seventh place and lapped is Alboreto. In eighth place and dropping back is René Arnoux. In ninth position it is Jean-Pierre Jarier, and in 10th position is Marc Surer in the Arrows. And Prost has had many bad luck patches in the past. He's lost several wins in the past because of troubles with the Renault, but it's running as reliably as a train at the present moment. He has completed his 41st lap, and he was at least 16 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet, who doesn't seem to be able to make up any of the gaps between himself and the race leader, as Prost now is right with Keke Rosberg there, who is in 5th position. Nelson Piquet goes through 23 seconds behind Prost.
Yes, I think it must have been a different tyre compound, because Prost is definitely a different man since before his pit stop. He's pulling away from Piquet at over a second a lap, and immediately before they pitted, Piquet was, if anything, marginally closing on Alain Prost, and Prost is now really flying, comfortably the fastest man on the circuit, and as I say, drawing away from Piquet, who in turn is drawing away from Cheever, who in turn is a very large, comfortable distance ahead of Patrick Tambay. So after a really fascinating battle right up to the pit stops, and fascination after the pit stop to see how the race settled down, unfortunately the concertina has gone on an expanding phase instead of a contracting one, and the leading half dozen cars really are spreading out, because Rosberg is a hopelessly long way behind Tambay, but he's just passed his teammate Jacques Laffite, is pulling away from him. So I'm afraid the concertina's on an expansion program, and at the moment we've got nothing much to sing or cheer about.
That is correct, and Alain Prost, as you see, has lapped the 5th place man, reigning world champion Keke Rosberg, and it means to say that Prost is at the moment on his way to his first world championship points of 1983, because he finished outside the points in Brazil in 7th place. He finished well outside the points in Long Beach in 11th place, and he desperately needs world championship points, because the enormous advantage that the turbocharged Renault had over other cars up to this year has disappeared. Now Prost is 21 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet, and the gap between Nelson Piquet, who is second, and Cheever, who is third, is 10 seconds. So 31 seconds spread between the first and third men. Patrick Tambay, as you see, is some 20 seconds behind Cheever. Then Rosberg and Laffite have been lapped in their Williams cars. And the interest, obviously, from now on has to be the positions in the World Championship, as well, of course, as how Alain Prost is going to be doing in comparison with the rest in terms of his World Championship position. And Piquet then is 15 points in, and at the present moment, I'm talking about the World Championship positions at the present moment, if they keep going in the positions that they're in. Piquet would be leading with 15 points. Lauda would be second with 10. Watson with 9, tying with Prost in third position. Then Jacques Laffite would be fifth, and Tambay would be sixth. But this is lap 43, and it's a 54-lap race, so we certainly must not count World Championship positions before they've been hatched. Prost finishing the lap. His Renault sounding delightfully crisp, with fifth position man Keke Rosberg in the background there. Rosberg about 5 seconds ahead of sixth place man, his teammate Jacques Laffite. And the unfortunate René Arnoux is dropping back all the time in the second Ferrari, as Nelson Piquet, that you just saw there, go through 23 seconds now behind that man, the race leader Alain Prost. And still Eddie Cheever some 9 or 10 seconds behind. Well, let's go a lap now with Alain Prost as he goes into the long straight, the 1.1 mile Mistral straight in fifth gear, building up the revs, and he does nearly 190 miles an hour as he comes underneath the bridge there, then down one gear, a confidence lift as they call it, into the Courbe de Cygne, the very tight, the very sweeping right-hander, where Mauro Baldi and Jochen Mass went off at enormous velocity last year and led to the banning of skirts in order to make the cornering speed slower and the cars safer. This is the most
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 1983 French Grand Prix. 8 laps to go, and back to France live, to Murray Walker and to James Hunt.
Now the race leader, Alain Prost, as we look at Nelson Piquet in second position, is on his 46th lap out of 54. On this now bitterly cold day at Paul Ricard, Nelson Piquet completes his 45th lap. There's Alain Prost, that's Eddie Cheever. The gap between Piquet and Cheever has been reduced slightly to just over 8 seconds, and that is René Arnoux, who is in 9th position behind, in 7th position, behind Jacques Laffite and Keke Rosberg. Lap 46 in the French Grand Prix. There is the second place man, Nelson Piquet. Ahead of him by over 20 seconds, Alain Prost in third position in the Renault Cheever. In fourth position in the Ferrari, Tambay. In fifth position is Keke Rosberg. In sixth position, Jacques Laffite. And as you see, the fifth and sixth position men have been lapped by Alain Prost, the race leader. They're going down the Mistral Straight, the longest straight in Grand Prix racing, and Alain Prost is exiting the right-hander there. It's a very flat circuit. He comes up to the left at La Tour. He comes up to the right at Pont, which is one of the second gear corners on this circuit. Beautifully, crisply. The Renault team are not even bothering to give him a signal as he goes through. And Nelson Piquet now approaches Pont, the right-hander. But it's a race which has become static in terms of the lead 6th positions. Niki Lauda, who was leading the World Championship, is out of the race. The gap now is 28 seconds between Prost and Piquet. The gap between Piquet and Cheever is significantly decreasing. The gap between Cheever and Piquet is decreasing. It is down now to about 6 seconds. It is shown there as being 7 seconds. you're looking at Prost. Now, are we going to see Piquet and Cheever? Because now the interest is not so much whether Prost will win. There is the race leader on his 47th lap, but can it become a Renault 1 and 2 as it was last year, with Arnoux and Prost finishing second and first? And this race, will Prost win, but will Cheever be second?
Yes, absolutely, Murray. They are, if the gap keeps coming down at roughly the same rate it has done the last couple of laps, Cheever is pretty much on schedule to catch Nelson Piquet right at the end of the race. So we may at last have a good battle just to liven things up at the finish. Comes Alain Prost coming up to complete his 47th lap. 7 laps to go. That interesting now to wait and see as they come round. Just if Eddie Cheever has closed up a bit more. There goes Jacques Lafitte, running steadily in 6th place, a secure 6th place. Rosberg's pulled away from him. Now, coming up to us in our position at the start-finish line, we have Nelson Piquet just gone past now. Eddie Cheever now.
The gap 6 seconds between Nelson Piquet in second position, Eddie Cheever in third place. So Cheever has reduced the gap from 9 to 6. Is he going to be able to reduce it yet further?
Well, I think unless Piquet is in some sort of trouble with his machinery, which of course is a possibility, maybe losing a bit of grip with the tyres, if he put on a softer compound as well. See, the teams attempted in the second half of the race to put on a softer rubber compound because the track has got a fair bit of rubber on it already from the first half of the race. That normally enables you to run a slightly softer compound, and there may have been a fair bit of ducking and weaving and guesswork going on amongst the teams in preparing their tyres for the guys who were stopping. And that I think Piquet's probably got the experience to hold off Eddie Cheever over a short distance like this, unless, as I say, he's got some sort of mechanical trouble. I think if he's in tyre trouble, his skill and experience will probably carry him through. If he's got a mechanical problem, then of course who knows.
Lap 49 now for Alain Prost, on his way to his 6th Grand Prix victory and his first points, and this is very important, of 1983, because Prost was only 7th at Brazil. He was only 11th at Long Beach, and as I said before, he desperately needs those points. And Nelson Piquet, there he is, with that significant flash from the turbocharger. The gap between himself and Prost is now 28.7 seconds. The gap between Piquet and Cheever is 7.3 seconds. So it looks as though Nelson Piquet has well and truly got the message. There he is in the background, and he's actually increasing the gap between himself and Eddie Cheever in third position. This is going to be, of course, by far Eddie Cheever's highest position since he joined the Renault team, if he finishes in third place, because he failed to finish in Brazil. There's the race leader, Prost, and Cheever failed to finish at Long Beach. So it's as important to Cheever to finish third, or hopefully second, as it is for Alain Prost here to win the race.
Keep his foot screwed right in it, because Eddie Cheever is not so far behind him, although Cheever, as Murray just said, has back markers to negotiate. Nelson appears to have a reasonably clear track in front of him.
Piquet there coming through to complete his 50th lap, and the gap now between Prost and Piquet is 30.8 seconds. The gap between Piquet second and Cheever third is 5.8 seconds. So Eddie Cheever is absolutely on his limit, but he's still to catch and pass René Arnoux. Going down the Mistral straight there on lap 51, out of 54. Race leader Alain Prost. Second is still Piquet, some 30 seconds later. Third, about 7 seconds behind Piquet, is still Cheever. Fourth is Patrick Tambay, who has yet to be lapped by the race leader in fourth position. Fifth and been lapped, Keke Rosberg, the reigning world champion. Sixth, of course, and been lapped, Patrick Tambay. Seventh, René Arnoux, that we've been looking at. Eighth position is Michele Alboreto. Ninth is Jean-Pierre Jarier. And 10th is Marc Surer. There are the first six. That in the background is the race leader. He is on his way to completing lap 51 out of 54. Not very far to go for Prost, a wonderful French Grand Prix record, the winner in 1981, second and meant to be the winner in 1982, leading now on his 52nd lap, 2 laps to go at the end of this one. That is Nelson Piquet in the turbocharged Brabham BMW, and they certainly seem to have improved, if not overcome. That's Bruno Giacomelli, incidentally. They seem to have improved, if not overcome, the turbocharged BMW engine problems, because Nelson Piquet's been running like a train in this race. He crosses the line 30.3 seconds behind Alain Prost, and as we look at the race leader, the gap between Cheever and Piquet has increased to 7.3 seconds. There is Laffite in 6th position. He's been lapped. Jacques Laffite, who was 4th at Brazil, 4th at Long Beach. If he finishes 6th here in France, he will have, with great merit, finished in the points in all the 3 Grand Prix in which he has driven for the Tag Williams team, which he joined in 1983, having left the Ligier team somewhat disenchanted after having been with it for years. Jacques Laffite, that is. This, however, is the distinctive shape of the new, very slippery, in wind-cheating terms, RE40 Renault of Alain Prost, who came in and refueled in 24 seconds. The first time the Renault team had refueled their runners. Cheever took 17 seconds, and Prost took 7 seconds longer. He came in after his teammate. Now, as if to signify approval of what is happening, the sun is actually coming out for a short while, although we hope for a long while. It's very chilly here, to shine down on the circuit, to throw a weak and watery shadow on Alain Prost, who is on lap 53 out of 54, on his way to his second French Grand Prix win in 3 years, sandwiching his second place in 1982. Looking good. The cars look good, and so they should, of course, because he's on perhaps softer rubber than he started the race. But although pit stops are going to be banned at the end of this year, because there is a lot of worry about fuel slopping about in the pits under pressure and being a danger, well, they may be banning them in 1984 onwards, but they're certainly transforming the excitement of Grand Prix in 1983, returning in some ways to what many people regard as the good old days, and adding an extra dimension of excitement. And it's soon going to be into the last lap for race leader Alain Prost, who will be completing his 53rd lap onto his 54th as he comes round the left-hander now at Les Pingles, on his way, and he's into our sight here as he goes round the left at La Tour, changes down to one of the only 2 second gear bends, into Pont, and into his last lap, James, after really a copybook race, because he only lost the first place when he came in to refuel.
Yes, as you say, a copybook race by Alain Prost. Renault prepare very carefully for the French Grand Prix. They, of course, and Michelin do a lot of their testing here at Circuit Paul Ricard, and this, of course, gives them an advantage. They're at home. But today, Alain Prost, who is universally recognised throughout the business as being one of the very top men. Today, for the first time, he had a look to me a little bit like a world champion. The Renault team are getting their act together after a disaster season last year, and Prost picking up 9 points so long as he stands up for the rest of this lap. Here he comes, he's only got half a lap to go now, and quite honestly, as I said before, there's a little bit of a world champion material look to me about this particularly dominant performance, and more particularly in the second half of the race when he really just streaked away from the opposition.
Alain Prost then indeed coming through to win the second French Grand Prix in his career in the last 3 years, and as I said, second last year, a quite incredible achievement. And the flags are really going to be waving here at the Paul Ricard circuit when the Frenchman crosses the line, because the French crowd are going to also be welcoming home Eddie Cheever in third position. But now there is Prost. He's within sight now of the checkered flag, down to La Pont for the 54th and last time. The checkered flag is ready, and Alain Prost waves both hands in joy and delirious excitement as he crosses the line. There is Nelson Piquet, who won at Brazil, and he's coming through in second place, not having finished at Long Beach. So it's going to make a very interesting situation as far as the World Championship is concerned, assuming that Nelson Piquet finishes in this second position, and he